Okay, we're back.
The subject is moving. As he moves into this area, once he's in this, as he moves along this area, he gets into this area right here. He begins shooting, okay? As he's been shooting into the classrooms is what he's doing. He's initially right here, and on the timeline, if I go back up to the timeline, and note that he's three Uvalde PD officers, okay? Let me, higher up here. Okay, multiple shots.
Jesus.
In
Somebody
fact,
get
he
this guy
shot
on
27
Mic.
times as he proceeded.
Note to the Department of Public Safety, hey, one of you Texas Rangers, you guys are supposed to be sharp. Can you let this guy know to either get a lapel mic or don't frickin' walk around from the microphone when he's briefing? Anyway.
As he walked along here, he dropped the backpack here for no apparent reason. He was situated right here among cars. There was cars at the time. And as he walked, he shot into these classrooms. There's two classrooms. There's actually four, but two he shot into. There's four windows, two windows on each. He was firing into those classrooms. He proceeded to the west building, or the west entrance of the building. What we're calling the west, we're calling this east, and this the south entrance.
You notice they're not saying he tried any other doors? I want to know if he tried other doors and they were locked. Because the odds of him walking to the only unlocked door in that school is slim to none, and Slim left town.
He proceeded in there. He opened the door. It was open. It was unlocked. I know there were reports before about a teacher putting a rock in it. That's a practice around the school, practice in many schools. Yes, that did happen, but that same teacher also removed the rock. It was the same teacher that called 911 and reported a man with a gun outside the school. And
she says she removed a rock. Do we have that on videotape? Everything else is on video in the school. Where's the video of her removing a rock?
And the crash. So you also called the alarm, and the school goes into a lockdown. Active shooter. And they get the kids, and I won't go through the protocols, but they did what they were supposed to do in that regard. And one of those things is to lock the interior doors to the classrooms where the kids are at, lower the lights, and put them in a particular area, the furthest away from the windows, furthest away from the doors possible. As the teachers were trying to protect the kids throughout the entire campus, he entered the west building here. Now, I can tell you from the door aspect, we can discuss the door a little bit later. You may have questions on it, but it was open as he walked in.
Two open doors. Shocking. They're the only two in the whole school. All the other schools locked. This shooter just happened to stumble on the two that didn't work. It wasn't the school teacher. It wasn't a policy. It wasn't because they were on lockdown 58 times because of the open border. It wasn't because nobody follows procedure and the administrators don't enforce it and teachers are freaking don't follow the rules because they, whatever reason, they're too busy teaching how to freaking put a banana or rubber on a banana.
Thanks. This is where he is. Red indicates the subject. As he walks in, it's about 20 feet when you walk into this corridor, this east-west hallway. Then he's in the north-south hallway. He turns left. Then he approaches, and you can't tell from the video. The challenge with the school video is it's a fisheye video located at this location. A little different than the video that we had at Santa Fe. So the view is very distorted. You can't see all the way to here, and you certainly can't see very far over here on the first iteration. The second iteration, we got a little bit better when it was sent back to Quantico to be enhanced or enhanced the second time. You can see much of what's going on. It provided a much clearer way for us to document exactly what happened in that hallway over that 1 hour, 14 minutes, and 8 seconds. The subject lines up here. What you can't see, it's inset in here. What you can't see is which classroom he's shooting into exactly. But he's shooting at either 111 or 112 initially. Overall, there was 24 rounds that were recovered out here, 27 in the hallway. Now, some of those rounds could have been, when we're evacuating, first responders are evacuating, trying to save lives, could have drugged some of those rounds out there. But for right now, it appears when we finish with the trajectory analysis, we'll be able to tell you how many exactly were fired by the subject into that room and how many were fired out by the subject. But for right now, it appeared we had 27 rounds recovered in the hallway. The only shooting was not in this direction, it was in this direction here. He walked up to the door, he opened the door and walked in.
And he just said he pulled the door. The doors that I saw open inward. Oh, no, you know what? Somebody said per fire code, classroom doors have to open outward. That's why there's a window, so you don't throw it into somebody. Okay, so we did pull the door open.
Okay, then we heard shooting. As the timeline suggests, and through audio enhancement, we can hear how many shots were fired. Initial barrage of firing occurred within 100 rounds, occurred within the next couple of minutes. So you can go up on the timeline here.
100 rounds.
Again, shooting into classrooms 111, 112. He enters to 11:33. So we're talking about 32 seconds after he enters, because he entered West Building at 11:33.
Hearing this guy do that, I mean, I've made videos before and I'm talking out there and my damn mic's on mute. And I get finished with the video and I'm like, shit, it's on mute. This guy's going to look at this video and go, damn, they couldn't hear a damn word I was saying. No shit.
So the crash is 11:28, enters the building at 11:33, or 11:33 exactly. And 11:33 in seconds, begins shooting at the classroom, and then he enters.
And then the cops hit, and they were cowards. And the cops hit like little yellow-bellied saplings, and they let those kids die, and then that's what he's saying. And then the cops hit here, and then we had some urine stains here where the police peed on themselves. And then if you go back over here, the cops ran, and they got a donut, and they were really busy and really scared.
The interior are sheetrock, and bullets go through. The two were grazed at that point, retreated. I can tell you at 11:36, as we mentioned before.
Then one cop said to another cop, man, you smell really good. What kind of perfume is that? And then the other cop said, oh, it's whatever.
11:36, two Uvalde PD officers. So we had 7 officers right now in the building at 11:36. That's pretty quick time, for considering all the different factors in that regard. There was never a school.
The briefing we're going to get on this, on what really happened, will be like this. Well, we gave a briefing. We can't help it if you couldn't hear.
School resource officer on the scene. A school resource officer did respond, and when he responded to the location. He heard a man with a gun. So he's off campus, he's in his vehicle, he responds rapidly. As he does, he sees what he thinks when he drives in, he sees what he thinks is the subject back here. It wasn't the subject, it was a teacher. He drives directly towards that subject, the teacher, and says, I'm out with the subject. So it had already been reported on the radio.
So this is a school resource officer that's assigned to this school, and he doesn't know he's out with a teacher. He puts out he's out with the subject. Really?
Man with a gun, okay, at the school, after a crash.
He finds the only guy on campus without a gun.
He thinks he's got the subject. He drives quickly. He drove, over 50 miles an hour into it, going towards the subject. And unfortunately, that wasn't the subject. The subject was right here. He passed the subject as he went. So that's why some of the confusion early on. Now, the doctrine for active shooters is clear. I mentioned it before. And, it's two sets of it. Hey, you stop the killing, you stop the dying. The other part of that doctrine is you isolate, you distract, and you neutralize. Everyone's taught this. You require it in TCOL training. We practice it. We teach it. This is the doctrine, and it recognizes that you run to the sound of gunfire. When you get to gunfire, you don't stop. Okay, when you get there, you run into gunfire, okay, and it's so important to do so. And I'll tell you what, and I've said it before, and I hope I've underscored it. There's no doubt in my mind that those officers would have gone, any one of them would have sacrificed their lives for his children.
And then they went to Dunkin' Donuts, and they had a donut, and they called for more donuts because there were so many officers coming, and
those police officers,
Jesus Christ, really, dude? I'm going to go past this. This is...
A barricaded subject contained is a situation where you may have a hostage, you need a SWAT team. Okay, you have time. the C's. You know, first you contain, then you communicate with the subject, then you call for SWAT, then you create an immediate action plan. That's not what this was. This was never anything more than an active shooter situation. But at some point, he's contained the officer. It has been reported he did not have a radio with him. He did not. This is the conversation that he had, and you can read it yourself in your notes, but I'll just, for the purposes of this.
Stop giving this guy freaking prompts. He can't freaking talk to the mic and look at a prompt.
I'd like to tell you where this man has an AR-15, a lot of firepower, so we need this building surrounded. Dispatcher.
Freaking worthless.
Him. Dispatcher. She's in another classroom. She's in room 102. Another person possible shot across from her. It wasn't 102, it was 112. It was the accurate number.
I might be able to turn this up when I edit this.
Okay, we have him in the room. He's got an AR-15. He's shot a lot. He's in the room. He hasn't come out yet. We're surrounded, but I don't have a radio with me. Please let all units know he's going to be in a room. He's in room 111 or 112, and we're in here. I'm in the hallway. Sergeant, another sergeant are here. We need this place surrounded, and if you have SWAT, I need them to set up south side of the building, which is the nearest to the location to the funeral home.
This is probably a critical part, too, because we can, it looks like they've got information on what Arredondo was saying, so this would be a great part to hear. Thanks, Department of Public Safety. What are you, Department of Public Safety, you're trying to protect my hearing? So you freaking talk where I can't hear you? Shit.
No, yes. They need to be outside the building and prepared because we don't have enough firepower. Right now it's all pistols and he has an AR-15. You can get the SWAT team set up by the funeral home, okay? And we need, yes, I need more firepower in here because we have pistols and this guy's got a rifle. So I don't have a radio. If somebody can come in, the dispatcher, Chief Arredondo, but I am going to drop it when he comes out of the door, all right? So I need you to bring a radio for me and give me my radio. For me, I need to get one rifle. Hold on, I'm trying to set him up, or set him. I'm going to set him up right now, okay? Do me a favor. Call me when SWAT is set up. I'm going to have you vibrate, though. Call me twice if you have to. It's okay. All right. Thank you.
Well, that was pretty nice. In the middle of kids getting killed, he said thank you.
Questions have been asked about who's in charge. And much to the chagrin to some that when people believe and what they hear that when the FBI shows up, no, they're not in charge, okay? When other agencies show up, you're not in charge. It's the agency that has the original jurisdiction is in charge. But you have options. Just because you're in charge and you have the authority and you're the ranking official, senior official on site, you can actually delegate that down. In my case, the lower I delegate it, the better in terms of sound decision making. Or you can delegate it to another agency, or you can ask another agency to take the lead. This is common practice in ICS, in Incident Command. We practice that in Texas.
That's true if you're not equipped to handle it, but cops have egos, especially small town cops, especially cops like this chief who likes to have 4 stars on his uniform when he has 4 officers. I mean, if you have somebody that's incompetent that's in charge, it is not unheard of for someone to go, I'm not listening to you, you're a freaking idiot, get out of the way.
We always practice it, we preach it. We're very careful, and you'll find when you talk to the experts in the alert training program, as self-deploying is a risk. Deciding who's in charge, deciding it on your own to take action without it being properly coordinated is a risk. It's one of the challenges you have in these type of situations. But nevertheless, in terms of if you're going to issue commands, okay, if you're going to direct action, you're the ranking official from the agency that has jurisdiction, you're the on-scene commander.
If you're going to talk and give a briefing, you got to speak in a microphone so people can hear you.
Gunfire happens again at 11:40. Let's assume that was a barricaded subject. He was contained. Well, he fires again. And he's room 111 or 112. It's not reasonable to expect that there's children and teachers in that room still alive. 1141 Uvalde PD officer. We believe that he's barricaded in one of the offices. They're still shooting. More misinformation. He's not barricaded in an office. Okay, he's in a classroom, 111 and 112. Dispatch asks if the door is locked, to which a Uvalde PD officer replies, "I'm not sure. We have a hooligan to break it, a hooligan tool, so you can just break the lock and move in at the door."
Well, according to Tatum's inside source, they didn't have any tools. Another wrong point that his source got wrong.
41, 4 first responders in the room, the east hallway. We had 2 constables, a fire marshal, and UPD officer. So officers continue to flood into the particular area. So we had 11 to begin with. We've added another 4 officers to it. The DPS trooper was the first DPS officer to arrive.
Director McCraw, we've got to ask you this.
Yes.
Best you can, speak into the mic.
Oh, yes.
Thank God.
Sir, I apologize.
So the system can pick it up. If you
Yes,
could
sir.
pick that mic up, that would be
Yes, sir.
great.
All right. How about that, sir? Does that work?
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Chairman.
Look, it sounds like I'm being mean to this guy, but I'm not. I actually like him. I think he's doing the best job he can. I mean, he's been a highway I don't know his background. I said when his first briefing came out that I thought that he thought they screwed up, and he was trying to water it down, and he didn't want to make them look bad. But I still believe that he thought they screwed up. So I still think that he knew they screwed up from the jump street.
At 11:42, we had a DPS trooper and 2 PD officers enter from the east hallway. She was there less than 2 minutes, looked around because at that point in time there's multiple officers, and she left the building to find other duties as assigned.
Did he say she left? A woman showed up and left? Is that what he said?
She was there less than 2 minutes, looked around because at that point in time there's multiple officers, and she left the building to find other duties as assigned.
She left to find other duties. Isn't that a nice way of saying she got the hell out of there? Oh my God, another thing that I always say that comes true. Shocking. Damn, I should be like a prophet.
11:44, another suspect fired around. 11:44 later, UPD officers have some officers there available to get everybody back. A UCISD officer, Ruben Reese, and one of our sergeants, Sergeant Maldonado, actually drove Officer Reese to the scene. He enters at that point in time. An unknown officer says, they need to get out of the hallway. Well, before I need to talk about Officer Ruiz. He notes that she's been shot. He's talking about his wife. He got a call from his wife. His wife was in room 112 and later died. Unknown officer says, they need to get out of the hallway, to which an officer responds, Chief is in there. Chief is in charge right now. Hold on. 11:51, 7 Border Patrol agents enter the west door. There had been a call earlier for BORTAC, and BORTAC was en route. These aren't BORTAC agents.
That would be nice to know when they were called, who called them, and what time they were en route.
Agents that first responded. At 11:52, there's a first ballistic shield that enters the west door. At 11:52 later, UPD officers, units just showing up. Can you help with crowd control? So officers after.
So help with crowd control means hold the parents, handcuff parents, tase parents, and pepper spray parents who are trying to get in. That's what crowd control means. Yeah, because we're going to wait and let your kids die, but we're going to keep you out. We're not mentioning that failure.
After 11:52 are being diverted to crowd control activities. 11:53, unknown officer informs a DPS special agent that they need right now is a perimeter. Someone comments on whether there are still kids inside, to which the DPS special agent responds, if there is, then they just need to go in. Someone comments about whether there are still kids, in which he responds, if there is, then just need to go in. He enters the west building.
Whoever said that was right. He was following his training. That's what they were all trained to do. I knew there were officers on scene that didn't agree with them waiting and that were pissed and wanted to go in. I said that from the jump street. Doesn't change the fact that 19 officers, 13 DPS officers waited in a hallway for the excuse that the chief didn't tell us to go in, so we waited. Bullshit.
Is directed on where the suspect is focused on. This is from a body camera, and you'll note that any information that I'm using right now, it came from, it's color-coded, so when it's blue, it's body camera. Obviously, from video surveillance, it's either, whether it's funeral home and indicated, and of course, the Uvalde PD recordings as well. And you have that in your booklet. After some time, the DPS officer said, if there are kids in there, we need to go in right now. Then he said, what's that? Then whoever's in charge will determine that, because of what he recommended, if there's kids in there, we need to go get them. And then later on, the DPS agent, he left the scene to look for kids, found a young boy in the restroom in the West building that was hiding, and then went outside to look.
Now, there's reports to where in the video, it shows this kid walk out of the bathroom and look when the shooter's shooting.
Search other classrooms. There's a PD channel recording. Again, it's critical that let the PD take the point. 11:58, after an unknown officer was asked where the shooter is, another unknown officer advises the school chief of police is in there with him. There's a 911 call at 12:03, and that's the call from Chloe, the first time Chloe calls. And of course,
I can't believe the guy with his wife in there didn't go in. I mean, you got to be a special kind of great officer to know your wife's in there and she calls you and says, I'm shot, and you know she's bleeding out, and you see 19 of your fellow blue line brothers in the hallway, and you don't go in? Wow.
Heart-wrenching to listen to her. She's in room 112, okay? She was actually the only child in room 12 that was uninjured. Okay, there was 8 children killed, 2 teachers killed in that room. And of course, she was uninjured. 9 children were injured in room 112. 12:03, the second ballistic shield enters the west door. 12:04, the third ballistic shield enters the west door. And yet there's no action. 12:09, PD officer, go around and get the master keys to the room. Elements of the BORTAC arriving at the elementary school was at 12:09 or 12:10. And I think the first BORTAC members went into the building at 12:15. During that time, the Uvalde ISD Ariano requests master key. Uvalde ISD Chief Ariano gives instructions to officers to have a sniper on the east roof. Master key, there's more than one master key for the west building. Anytime the locks were changed, there was another master key for that lock. So you may find a master key, but there's 2 master keys. You've got to get both master keys. So there was some frustration in the discussion about this master key doesn't work. Well, it doesn't work because that master key is not for that door.
Actually, we still don't know that the doors were locked, and we don't have them using any master key on the doors.
The chief says, tell them to expletive wait. No one comes in. 12:20, the fourth ballistic shield shows up. At 12:21, importantly, the suspect fires 4 rounds. So if this is a barricaded subject, why is he still firing?
What he means there is a barricaded subject. If you go on a hostage negotiation, he's not shooting. He's trying to negotiate for something. There's communication. He's holding hostages in order to get a getaway plane, money, whatever political thing he wants. That was never the case. So for anybody that says, we thought it turned into a hostage, well, that's because you're an idiot. It never turned into a hostage. Active shooters don't turn into hostages.
Oh, thank you. The chief says,
the guy who put that up should have covered this last one. This is just going to be confusing and draw the eye, but whatever.
At 12:28, let me back up to 12:21. Can you get a breaching tool, like a trailer house, like for a trailer house? The chief, we've lost 2 kids. These walls are thin. If he starts shooting, we're going to lose more kids. I have to say, we have to put those to the side right now.
What does that mean? Put the dead kids to the side? Or forget that he's killing kids? What the hell does that statement mean?
Uvalde chief attempts to communicate with a suspect in English and Spanish. Now, the entire communications was always one way. The suspect never communicated, so it was not communication. We're talking at.
That's a good point, which means it never turned into a hostage negotiation. There was no negotiation. It was an active shooter, and they should have went in.
But an officer, there's a teacher shot in there, to which the Uvalde PD officer replies, I know. The chief, people are going to ask why we're taking so long. We're trying to preserve the rest of the life. The chief, do we have a team ready to go? Do we have a team ready to go? Have at it.
You don't need it. You had a team ready to go 30 minutes ago when you have 19 cops in the hallway. Just failure after
1227. 1228, the chief. There's a window over there. Obviously, the door is probably going to be locked. Probably going to be locked. That is the nature of this place. I'm going to get some more keys to test.
The door's probably going to be locked. Probably. What a freaking idiot. You don't check.
1228, the chief. These master keys are working here, bro. Aren't working here, bro. We have master keys and they're not working.
You got a freaking chief saying bro in the middle of the thing, being a freaking key master, and the doors are unlocked. Jesus Christ. That ought to be a new test on a PD freaking application. Okay, here's a locked door, and here's an unlocked door. Please identify the unlocked door.
The chief at 1230. Okay, we've cleared out everything except for that room. We still have people down. They're just past the flag to the right. But we're ready to breach, but that door is locked. 1233. The chief. I say we breach through those windows and shoot his expletive head off through the windows.
Shoot his fucking head off in the windows is what he said. They want to go expletive.
This is an hour and a half, an hour after you entered the building. An hour after you entered the building.
So an hour and a half later, the chief comes up with the brilliant on Johnny on the spot plan, Dr. Obvious. Let's put somebody through the window and shoot him. Damn. Hour and a half? I'm pretty sure I'd have got that at least at like in an hour and 25 minutes.
11:35, a hooligan tool arrives to the west door. At 12:38, the chief attempts to communicate with the suspect in English and Spanish. At 12:41, the chief says, just so you understand, we think there are some injuries in there. And so you know what we did, we cleared off the rest of the building so we wouldn't have any more besides what's already in there, obviously. 11:42, the chief says, we have an expletive problem getting into the room because it's locked. He's got an AR-15 and he's shooting everywhere like crazy, so he stopped. 12:43, the Uvalde chief, they got to get that expletive door open, bro. They can't get that door open. We need more keys or something. 12:46.
They're talking about getting the door open and nobody has checked the door. I mean, that is a key factor.
6, the chief says, if y'all ready to do it, you do it. But you should distract him out that window. 11:47, the sledgehammer enters from the east hallway. 11:50, the breach and termination gunfire. At the time, there was a stack of...
He never says how they breached the door. Did they open it? Did they use a key? Did they hit it with a sledgehammer? He skips over all critical information.
7 officers that went in. Actually, only 4 went directly in because the door closed, as will happen in some of these operations, and left the 3 out. 3 entered thereafter, shortly thereafter. 5 officers fired rounds, and fired.
So the guys entering on this crack Borak SWAT team that everybody keeps telling me is freaking elite, and they're great. They didn't have a guy holding the door. You didn't have the breacher hold the freaking door open, and it's shut on 3 of your guys in the stack. and you split your team in half because nobody held the door? This is the crack elite Borak team that I keep hearing about? This is the Borak team that Officer Tatum trained?
Fired rounds at the subject, killing the subject at that time.
Colossal failure.
Chairman, that concludes the timeline. And of course, I know that you may have some questions on the door and other questions that I'm ready to discuss.
Wish I was in this freaking conference. I got lots of questions.
Discuss right now with some of the pictures that we have. And I thank you for the opportunity to have gone through that.
Okay, so you're ready to get some questions now?
Yes, sir.
I've got a couple, and then we'll open it up. You said the outside door was unlocked.
Yes, sir.
Now, was that lock, as I understand it, there at one time was a rock, the teacher removed the rock, the teacher closed the door or heard slam the door. We don't know really what all to believe because we've heard so much stuff. But was the door closed, and did the lock just not work?
The only way you can lock these exterior doors in the west building, there's 4 doors. One is for the library and 3 other entrances, east, west, and south. The only way to do that is from the outside. You can't do it otherwise. So when she knocked the rock out, it closed securely, but there's no way for her to tell that the door was unlocked. The only way to know that the door was unlocked is go out, close the door, okay, then try it. So that's the only way you can tell on this particular model.
But he came straight through the door with no problem.
It was unlocked. He walked straight through it.
So did y'all check the lock later to see if the lock?
What he's asking is did the door not lock because the lock malfunctioned? Because the door didn't close all the way? Why didn't the door lock?
Was malfunctioning, or was it working?
Yes, the locks were working fine, and that.
So it wasn't a malfunction. So it was the teacher with the rock that didn't shut it.
On the exterior doors, the locks were working fine. Now I can tell you.
Again, government failure.
Looking at the picture here, you don't need a key to get into this building. It could have been locked. This glass doesn't have mesh on it. All you have to do is shoot through this glass. Okay, reach in. There's a bar. Well, here's a bar. Pull that, and you're in. Now the subject would have known that.
You don't know what he would have known. Now we're trying to justify that the government left the damn door unlocked. Meanwhile, they're blaming innocent gun owners that own the AR-15, and that's the problem.
He would have known it. And the same thing, these panes are also vulnerability.
Yeah, anybody can look at that and tell it'd be easy to take a gun and shoot holes in it and reach it around.
You don't need a gun. I can kick that out. I can throw a rock through it. I can bring a hammer. You don't need a gun.
Yes, sir.
But the first question was, the lock was functioning correctly?
The lock was functioning correctly, and the door was unlocked. It was closed, but unlocked.
It was not closed. If it was closed and the locks functioned, it would have locked.
I thought when it closed, it was supposed to automatically lock.
Well, you can set it to two. You can set it to 2 sections, and it's similar to the actual door on the interior as well. You can turn it all the way one direction. It's unlocked. You can turn it another direction, and it's in the locked position.
So the latch was working functionally.
Yes, sir.
Well, it was just turned in a position when you close it, it doesn't lock.
Exactly. Someone did not lock that door.
Government failure. Failure to follow procedure, failure to lock down, failure of administrators to enforce proper. They did training. They didn't learn from their training. Nobody identified this, and nobody cares because the border's open and they've had 58 lockdowns in the last few months since the beginning of the year at the school.
Okay. And similarly, the south door, which I described officers going in early on, that door was unlocked as well.
Second thing, okay, you may have just said what I was fixing to ask, but the classroom door, was it locked or not locked?
The classroom door, if we can get a picture of it, I think this one is probably fine. This isn't the actual door. Well,
Why wasn't the actual door? Why don't you show the actual door?
This shouldn't really. This is the actual door, but we don't really want to use that. This is room 127 and 126. That's what 111, this 112 and 111 would look like in that regard. And here's the door. You cannot lock this door from the inside of the classroom. There's nothing the teacher could do to lock the door inside the classroom. The teacher can come outside the classroom as the requirement is to lock the door with a key, only with a key. And this right here by
That's some brilliant shit. You got school lockdown procedures and you put locks on the outside of the door so you can't lock yourself in a door to prevent a gunman from entering. You talk about some government ignorant shit.
By turning it, you know, and the locked position. And I can actually have the door of another, this came from the West Building, one of the doors right here, and I can demonstrate that if you'd like at this time, Mr. Chairman.
So the teacher could not even lock the classroom door from the inside?
That's correct.
Which means the shooter could not lock it.
There's no way to lock the door from the inside, and there's no way for the subject to lock the door from the inside.
It was open.
We had heard reports that the lock was malfunctioning, that they had turned in a request for the lock to be fixed. Is that all fictitious? Or
We had a locksmith inspect the lock and the strike plate. The lock was functional. The strike plate was not. What's not happening is, so as you can see on this door here, is that, yes, the lock was working as it was designed, but if it doesn't, the through doesn't get into the
I'm really looking at this actual photo of the door with all the bullet holes. I don't see any blood on the floor. I don't see all the dead bodies that we keep hearing about. I'm not claiming conspiracy. I'm just saying they're hiding so much shit that I'm questioning everything. You have a door with some bullet wounds. This is the actual door that he shot through and entered. And I don't see one kid or one blood, and I heard they were everywhere.
strike plate, it may be locked, but it's not secure. You can just open it. And that's, you know, so you
I'm at 37 minutes. I'll make a part 3.